All right, today we're diving into something really fascinating, person-centered counseling. This is Carl Rogers' big optimistic idea that every single one of us has this built-in drive to grow and become our best selves. But as we all know, something usually gets in the way. So let's figure out what that is. You know that feeling, right? That little nagging sense that the person you show to the world, and maybe even the person you think you are in your own head, isn't quite the real you. It's this weird sense of inner conflict, like you're a stranger to yourself. Well, Rogers had a very specific name for that feeling. He called it incongruence. Basically, it's the gap between your self-concept, that's the story you tell yourself about who you are, and your actual unfiltered experience of life from one moment to the next. When that gap gets too wide, we feel anxious, we feel confused, and just disconnected. So the big question is, how does this gap even get there in the first place? Well, it all starts way back, really early in life, and it stems from a deep, powerful need that every single one of us has. A need that's so strong, it can actually make us trade away our own reality just to get it met. See, we are all born with this incredibly powerful desire for love, for acceptance, for warmth from other people. Rogers called this the need for positive regard. When we're kids, we crave this from our parents, our teachers, our friends. I mean, it's basically as essential as food and water. But here's where the trouble starts. So we go looking for that positive regard, but what we often get back is conditional. We start hearing messages like, I will love you if you're quiet, or I'll be proud of you if you're strong, or if you get good grades. We soak up these rules and turn them into what Rogers called conditions of worth. And to keep that love coming, we start to deny or push away any feeling that doesn't fit the script. And boom, just like that, the gap of incongruence is born. And this slide just shows that internal tug-of-war perfectly. Your real, actual experience might be, I feel angry, or I am scared, or I need help. But that internal rulebook, your conditions of worth, screams, nope, nice people don't get angry, brave people aren't afraid. So what do? You push those feelings away, pretend they don't exist, which of course just creates way more anxiety and inner conflict. So this begs the question, right? How do we fix this? Well, Carl Rogers had this really elegant idea. He believed that if a certain kind of environment creates this inner split, then a different kind of environment can heal it. He said that for any real positive change to happen, a relationship has to have 3 absolutely essential ingredients. And get this, it's not about complicated techniques or brilliant advice. It all comes down to just 3 specific ways of being with another person. 3 things that create the safety we need to actually grow. Let's take a look at the first one. First up, genuineness. This means the therapist isn't some blank screen or a know-it-all expert. No, they're a real person in the room, authentic, transparent, they're not playing a role. Because they are being real themselves, it gives the client permission to feel safe enough to start exploring their own reality. Next, and this is the direct antidote to that original problem, is unconditional positive regard. Instead of that conditional stuff, I will love you if, the therapist offers this deep, genuine acceptance of the client's whole being, valuing them no matter what they're feeling or what choices they've made. It's a relationship that says, you are worthy, period, full stop. And finally, number 3 is empathy. Now, this isn't just sympathy or feeling sorry for someone. This is the ability to really deeply sense the client's private world, their feelings, their meanings, as if you're inside it with them. To feel that truly heard and understood, maybe for the very first time in your life, is just incredibly freeing. And when these 3 things are there, something really amazing starts to happen. The person starts to move away from that rigid, defensive, incongruent state, and they move toward a more fluid, open, and authentic way of being, a state that Rogers called being a fully functioning person. In that safety bubble, created by genuineness, unconditional positive regard, and empathy, you can finally relax. Your defenses can come down. And all those feelings we pushed away for so long, the anger, the fear, the needs, they can finally safely come out into the light. We can acknowledge them, we can own them, and we can start weaving them back into our real sense of self. So the ultimate goal here is congruence. Remember those 2 separate circles from the beginning? Well, now they start to overlap. The person you think you are starts to line up with the person you actually are. You're not at war with yourself anymore. You're becoming whole. And a person who's moving in this direction becomes what Rogers called fully functioning. Now, this doesn't mean they're perfect or they're happy all the time. Not at all. It means they're open to all of life's experiences, the good and the bad. It means trusting their own gut feelings, living more freely and creatively in the moment. It's really not a destination you arrive at, it's a lifelong process of becoming. These ideas didn't just appear out of thin air. They evolved over Rogers' long and pretty amazing career. And they were really tied to the man he was, someone who was himself always in that process of becoming. His theory really grew in stages. In the 40s, it started as the non-directive approach, which was a pretty big rebellion against the whole therapist as expert model. Then in the 50s, it became client-centered, really shifting the focus onto the client's own power to heal. And finally, it broadened even more into the person-centered approach, a whole philosophy that could apply to education, politics, you name it, not just therapy. But maybe nothing tells you more about this whole theory than this quote from Rogers' own private journal, written when he was 80 years old. Just think about that. Here's the man who championed the idea that every person has worth, and he's still grappling with the very human challenge of unconditional self-love. It just shows you, this journey toward becoming yourself is a lifelong one, even for the guy who drew the map. And that really leaves us with a final thought. For our own lives, with our friends, our family, our colleagues, we're often so quick to jump in with advice, to try and fix things, to judge. But what if Rogers was right? What if the most powerful, most healing gift we could ever give another person isn't an answer, but simply a relationship where they feel safe enough to finally take off the mask and just be themselves?